Hello and welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of the internet. I'm your host, the whiteologist, Mr. Blows Your Minds, and this is Black Minds News. Black Minds News is to report, articulate, translate, communicate, insinuate, develop, investigate, unveil, decode, spread the news, whether it's by news, video, website, or quotes from publications. As I articulate this information, I ask the creator of the universe be here, heart, soul, mind, and spirit. Because why? The truth don't need no partner. As a descendant of the greatest people who created this place that we call the United States, we the foundational black Americans, the bloodline historical lineage, the historical people known as slaves, we who call ourselves BADOS, Black American descendant of slaves. Some say Black African descendant of slaves. Others say ADOS, American descendant of slaves. We, the today's children, offspring, and printer generation, we give honor to our ancestors. You know what the motto of our show is? I'm never going to tell you what I heard. I'm only going to tell you what I know. Today's date is October the 22nd, 2019. Did you hear? Yeah, that's right. Amber Guyger's intent to appeal both convictions. That's right. You know I'm going to say that again. Amber Guyger's intent to appeal both convictions. Yeah, there was some breaking news today. There's some stuff that came out. But again, I guess those who had been watching and understood what you were seeing, what some of the shenanigans that we saw that looked to be like mistakes, but once you go back and look at it, maybe it don't look like mistakes after all, maybe just kind of part of the playbook, right? So, we as Black Minds News report, we're gonna delve into this story about what broke today, what they're talking about as into, and some of the other things that happened in the case. So again, welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube, and stay tuned for this broadcast. Hey, how's y'all doing? Again, this is your host, Mr. Blows Your Minds, coming with another Black Minds News Report. First and foremost, I want to say what's good to my fam. You probably say, well, hey, Mr. Blows, I thought I was going live. I'm still going to do live, but I'm doing some things. So I'm trying to work out some things. So I'll get some of these recordings, delayed tapes, will just do just fine. So first of all, I want to thank each and every one of you for you going out here and taking time out of your day to come to see what Black Minds News Report is talking about. Thank you. Passerbys, if you should happen to pass by, this is the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. Go down the aisle, see some things that you might see or like. Happen to see something that make you feel some kind of way. Remember, the motto of the show is the truth don't need no partner. Now, again, we've been in the business for 7 years. 2.94, fluctuating down to 3,000 subscribers, and sometimes we can't get past but 50, 60 views. Went up from 30, 40, now it's about 50, 60, but somehow we're still kind of the most suppressed show in the black corner of the internet. So let's go ahead and get into this. So again, let me go ahead and get you up to date on what some of the stuff that just took place as into, what's going on. So I'm going to give you the layout. So sit back for a quick second and let it do what it do and let it explain itself, right? All right, check it out. Amber Guyger's lawyers file intent to appeal murder conviction. KRLD says, you know I'm going to say that again. Amber Guyger's lawyers file intent to appeal murder conviction. This story is coming out of KRLD. And and today's date is October 22nd, 2019, and this is how it reads. Lawyers representing convicted murderer and former Dallas police officer Amber Guyger has filed an intent to appeal, KRLD reports. According to our media partners, KRLD-AM, Guyger's attorney planned to appeal both her murder conviction and her 10-year sentence. Guyger was convicted last month of murder and sentenced to 10 years behind bars for fatally shooting her downstairs neighbor, Botham Jean, when she entered his apartment by mistake and thought he was a burglar. KRLD said Dallas County District Attorney John Kruzat's contempt hearing is still pending and that the Kruzat's office has filed a petition to have called by Judge Tammy Kemp replaced for the hearing. Kemp charged the DA with contempt after learning of a TV interview he gave about the case while under a gag order, just days before the trial began. The hearing to recuse Kemp will have to be settled before Kruzat's contempt hearing. Legal analyst Ed Klein told KRLD the filing is a procedural matter that extends the timetable to file an appeal for up to 90 days. The filing does not guarantee that Guyger's attorney will file an appeal in the case.
The international attention page of the murder trial for Amber Guyger. Good evening, everyone. I'm Steve Noviello. The fired Dallas police officer shot and killed Botham Jean in his own apartment. She says she thought he was in her apartment. The jury will have to decide if what she did was murder or something else. Botham Jean's family from St. Lucia is in Dallas for the trial. They attended a church service in Dallas earlier today. Fox 4's Allison Harris has more on what you can expect during day one in court.
Tomorrow morning, the jury will be sworn in. The indictment will be read. Then both sides will be given the opportunity to give their opening statements. The district attorney told me at the end of last week that Botham Jean's family is anxious. Botham Jean's family asked for prayers Sunday ahead of Amber Guyger going on trial. His mother, Allison Jean, has been calling for her conviction since she was indicted for murder.
I look forward to the next step, which is a conviction of murder of Amber Guyger, and more so of a penalty that will cause her to reflect on what she has done and the pain that she has caused.
Dallas County District Attorney John Kruzat met with the family last week. He still feels their pain and their anxiety as they head into trial. He maintains that this is appropriately a murder case.
And I've studied what we have, and I feel comfortable that we're going forward on it, but I don't have any idea as to how it will end up.
It's been over a year now since Guyger was caught on cell phone video pacing and on the phone calling for help after killing her upstairs neighbor at the Southside Flats in Dallas. She told police that she mistook his apartment for her own, opened the door, and saw a figure inside that she believed to be a burglar. She says she gave him verbal commands that were ignored, then shot him before ever entering the apartment. At first, she was arrested and charged with manslaughter.
And the grand jury will be that entity that will make the final decision.
People were outraged, protesting for the charge to be upgraded. Botham Jean was buried before Amber Guyger was fired.
My job is to ensure the integrity, the highest level of integrity in this criminal investigation, and that is what I did, and I waited until the critical portion of this investigation was complete.
She was indicted for murder in November. A gag order for her trial was issued in January. Prosecutors have since requested time cards from the police department, showing that she worked 19 hours of overtime the month before the shooting, and that she worked more than 13 hours before she clocked out that Thursday, the night of the shooting. Last week, the defense was denied a change of venue request that they made because of, quote, prejudicial inflammatory media coverage in Dallas. The 12 jurors were selected from an original pool of 800, and expert witnesses are traveling in from out of state. Former prosecutor, now defense attorney George Milner, expects that day one of trial will be especially emotional, anticipating that Allison John will take the stand to talk about her son, the 26-year-old accountant, church choir singer, and volunteer from St. Lucia.
I suspect she will be, if not the first witness, certainly one of the lead witnesses for the state. They're going to want to get the jury emotional, thinking about the loss to Botham John's family.
We're then expected to hear from crime scene witnesses, the medical examiner, and hear competing testimony on police use of force, actual facts as to how his death could have happened, as Milner says, rather than the drumbeat of innuendo.
And that's what is so hard for people to wrap their minds around, is that Botham John should not be dead.
The trial is expected to last at least 2 weeks. The district attorney told me that those days go by quickly, but those weeks are long.
Oh, there was another interview last night.
Yes, Your Honor. The gag order was in effect. I have the exhibit, Your Honor. I was going to put it into the record and bring it to the court's attention.
No, don't mind this. So let me be clear. On last night, the evening prior to the start of this trial, our elected DA did an interview about this trial.
On Fox 4 News, Your Honor, yes. And I have the video and the article from Fox 4 and the screenshot from the data disk. It was short, but it was done, and it appears to be a violation of your order dated January 2019, the restrictions regarding publicity.
Okay. You have the video? Let's see it.
Thanks, Your Honor. Can I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
All right, I'm tendering.
House of Roe.
The notice of appeal, there actually was a question as to whether they could get a better deal if they go to trial again. Does it surprise you they're at least given the notice of appeal?
No, it's not a surprise at all. It's a procedural matter to just file the notice of appeal as kind of a place mark. It gives you additional time in which to assess whether or not an appeal is actually going to be perfected. If they had not filed the notice of appeal, then their appellate timetable would have run out 30 days after the verdict. This extends it for a period of approximately 90 days for them to be able to collect the transcripts and analyze what happened during the trial to see if there is something that would be appealable.
We've got this upcoming hearing with the DA who gave an interview to Channel 4 before the start of the trial. None of the jurors saw the interview. The judge was really ticked about that because she had issued a gag order. They're wanting her recused from this based on her comments back in chambers and in partly in open court, but also back in chambers. What's going on with this kind of jockeying between attorneys here?
Well, it's not unusual for the sitting judge having issued a citation or a show cause to the sitting district attorney for the state to request that sitting judge be recused to hear a contempt hearing. And typically, even in Dallas County and most other counties, what will happen is the administrative judge, the judge that's in charge of assigning cases to the other judges, may elect to have another judge hear that, since Judge Kemp may technically be a witness as opposed to the one who's going to make the decision as to whether or not Judge Crusoe was in contempt.
So, to understand this, there may be a separate hearing before this matter of the contempt even comes up. I mean, they may have to either hold a quick hearing to hear this motion or delay the contempt hearing to deal with this whole matter.
Right. The motion to recuse Judge Kemp will have to be heard first. And typically that's going to be heard by another judge to make a decision as to whether or not Judge Kemp should sit to hear the contempt hearing against Mr. Crusoe, our DA. And from there, it could get reset from the October 31st setting that it has right now. It's kind of an unusual situation where you have a sitting elected district attorney who, at least on its face, violated a court order requiring him not to speak to the media when he went ahead and did it. So, as opposed to judge versus DA, it's an unusual situation.
All right, so we back, right? So you got a chance to see the rendition of all that had been put out there. And so it looks like that, those of the black corner of YouTube were speculating, and probably wasn't even speculative at this point, but I guess we got to wait to the end. But people felt some kind of way when they seen certain things in the ending of the trial, right? You had Miss Tammy Kemp, right? Giving her personal Bible, caressing, patting, showing apathy. Correctional officer is stroking the hair. We told later on that we're really checking for see if he had any kind of I guess have a shank or something up in there, right? And then we see that what had happened during the trial, right? That the DA, John Crusoe, who's an ex-judge, a law enforcement, and a lawyer, seemed to have, prior to the day of the trial, got on news after a gag order had been given back in January of 2019, a gag order for no one to speak nothing about the trial. And so what we see is that the attorneys or the lawyers for the Amber Guyger side decided, after trying to get a new venue and so forth and being rejected on that they had a shot here with getting a mistrial. So they brought it before the court, as you've seen, where you've seen Miss Tammy Kemp showed some kind of way when the lawyer presented that he had the facts. He had the video, he had the transcript, and to be able to show a stamp, screenshot of the date and so forth and all that, right? And so based on that in itself could actually be the cause that gets this case tossed. Now, some people say, well, what do you mean? Wait a minute. Because, again, Miss Tammy did go to the jurors and ask them, What they said, well, she kind of polled them and asked the jurors, did y'all see what he did last night? And accordingly, they said no. Right? They said no. We don't know. What are you talking about, Judge? We don't know about. So again, dismisses it. And then later on, we see that she's going to file for contempt against the district attorney, John Croce, right? And we see that he is in his office is trying to get her recused as the one who's going to be sitting on the proceeding for the contempt. And at the same time, we see now that the Amber Guyger's lawyers are now trying to file for an appeal, intent to appeal. Not just the conviction, the time as well. Well. So we see that again, I think it's October the 30th of 2019, is the pending contempt trial that's going to be held for John Croce. Now again, they're trying to get Miss Tammy to be recused, but they say in order for that, you have to have that first before we can even get to the contempt part. So they got to work on the way, how are we going to strategically get Tammy out the way. But according as you heard, Tammy will not be, if she don't be the presiding judge, she will actually become a witness on the behalf of the other team saying of contempt, right? So we have to ask ourselves, all right, you know, when some, again, playing chess or strategic games, or somebody just being conniving and slick, you ever got caught somebody being slick and then it was too late after the fact? You're like, damn, you got me with that. After the fact, right? So you see that when it came to knowledge to Miss Tammy Kemp, she had to look like, you know, she turned her head, you know what I'm saying? I thought she was laughing. Right, she turned and then she gave, it was kind of a Z movie type, acting performance, right? Now again, I can't, I'm just going to say from observation, but I can't say for 100% fact, but I'm just saying some of the credentials of Mr. Zila, again, somebody who's been in the game as long as he's been in the game. He's been a judge, he's been a police, and he's been a lawyer. So here's a seasoned veteran who knows the ins and outs. Why make a slip like that? And yet it may have been seconds, a couple seconds of a little insert that they put in the video. So again, if we was to think from a conspiratorial sense, and I know a lot of people don't want to think from that perspective, but again, you got to understand, it's got to be some conspiracy in our lives and some things that happen in this country. So again, to hypotheticalize and to play with the scenario, but we ain't really playing. We trying to look at this and solve this, right? But it still won't happen until later down the line. But so let's just say for you who hear me hypotheticalizing the situation. Let's say you got a person, again, you used to be a judge. So judge, district attorney, police, are they all like on the same team? Ask yourself that. Are they all on the same team? They all getting their check cut from the same process from the, right? So they all, so again, here's somebody who's be a judge, known people who've been sitting on the bench, used to be a lawyer, right? And then used to also be a cop. Now, with that being said, and then here's the person who is on trial for the murder is a cop. You've been in the game long enough. You're closing in on retirement. Were you willing to take one for the team? Are we willing to take one for the team? Again, because I don't think nobody is not kind of looking at the fact that I don't think that the system wants to allow we, BADOS, ADOS, to have in our repertoire to go into the toolbox if we should be being presented on a trial in a case and we feel like, we're being shammed and we need something as leverage in the case that we can pull these cases recently, especially of this year, that you have Jason Van Dyke from Chicago, and now you have a white woman, Amber Guyger, right? There are known, let's say, national cases. There's probably other ones out there, but we just don't say what this was being said. So, do they want to be the face of use when, again, you know, I got a video that I'm going to do behind this one. I wanted to add it in it, but I'm not. So I'm start doing singles again. So Benjamin Crump was talking about how, Benjamin Crump. I said that's right. Benjamin Crump, right? So Benjamin Crump said that, you know, how the injustices of the criminal system and how there's, you know, it's to 1 to 5. Every 1 to 5 has been incarcerated with a felony conviction in federal, and shit, in about the next 20 years, it'll be 1 in 3. So that means that we have a high conviction going before this system and being convicted and going to jail, right? So when we in situations like this, when it may happen to be where we may be innocent and it may just be a situation where it has to be the municipalities, the civil servant, and we need something more than just the fact of our own testimony, maybe credibility of other people who we may have to need some cases. So here it is, you got cases now. So I'm thinking they don't really want to get this case. And so somehow, some way, we had to allegedly think that somebody is taking one for the team. There was a couple things that had laid out when we looked in that case that just seemed, again, we as black people never seen in the courtroom where a judge go all out hugging the person who's been convicted in that manner. And the compassion and the stroking in the hair and going get my personal Bible, and he said I'm fair, and a whole lot of things were said, right? And so then after the fact that we see that that the jurors only gave for a conviction of 10 years, again, that was under discretion how they felt and they understood, but people believe that, you know, introducing the castle doctrine had did something psychologically to some of them, and then the family kind of co-signed and said some things, and then, you know, with the brother, right, Bert and Gene, right, and he said things he didn't really want to see, and so it's looking like you might get your wish. You don't want her to do no time, looks like, because accordingly, just this intent to appeal, according to what they say, it doesn't necessarily mean that the Guyger team is actually filing for the appeal. But they're filing for the appeal so they can get the extended period of time of 90 days. What's extended because, again, you still got some things that's before it. Again, you have this contempt of court with John Cruz. You have them trying to get the recusal of Tammy Kemp, right? And so they're buying more time. But the fact is, we have to look at that. They say that doesn't necessarily mean it. But let's go back and look at the case. In the case, we remember that it was the Guyger lawyers who the one that brought what before the court. It was them who brought about the whole thing that you're trying to put John Hughes for contempt. It was them using that again. There was a situation we could use again to, you know, get out of this situation. And based on what took place, well, again, this was set up for later down the line. That's what it's looking like, y'all. It's looking like this was all set up for something that happened down the line. I'm just saying, right? And so we see that, you know, it goes on and talks about how you heard Botham Jean's mother, how she said that she wanted to get the conviction. She wanted her to be able to sit and to reflect on what she done and the pain she caused. But does that really, okay, so you got a conviction. You're sitting there doing some time, but you didn't specify none of that. So everything that you have verbally said, did you not get it? Did you get the conviction? Did you get her to sit so she can reflect on what had been done? That's what she's doing right now. But now we got a back door to maybe either get it all, because can this lead to the fact that now that you don't have your key witness, right, with this Joshua Brown, and now on appeal, do you not use the scenario that's been created to say his credibility is really questionable, but since we can't question them, so now we leave it under the discretion of who's going to be the discretion this time, right? So that's just what it is, y'all, right? These are long, drawn-out chess games. Again, we just civilians. We don't be knowing all the ins and outs. But again, if you got a job and then, you deal with other people who are in the same capacity, and you sit down and you start to, converse about, scenarios and jobs and all that stuff, you come to find out, the knowledge that the other person got. So let's not think that people who are on camaraderie in this form and fashion, again, we had to play the role to sell it, to make it believable, right? And we got all that done. And to now, if it comes back later, after all that's been done and it all gets turned into mistrial, thrown out, who do you look at then? Right? Well, Miss Tammy be done. She's still going to get her pension, right? Cruz done did his time. He get his money and stuff, right? Everybody done did what they had to do. They took one for the team. So, you tell me, right? You tell me what you think. I'm just going to tell you what they just report today. Again, it does not validate what I'm saying. But again, sometimes you have premonitions. You say things before it happens. And so, as time goes on, as this thing starts to really show what it's all about, because look at all the people who were connected. Botham Jean, Joshua Brown, and some people will insinuate that because of the lackadaisical performance and standing they square made what happened to Atiana Jefferson manifest too. And so if, let's say that some people were saying that the family might have been hamming it up for the check, then didn't you just see me doing that a couple of days ago or last week or so when they said that they feel like that the department is not at fault because she was off duty? And not but the simple fact that they said it, you done had judges to do what? To remove this from the department. So what did I put out? No dough for the Jean family. It ain't signed, sealed, delivered yet. All this is pending. All this is just the chess game that, again, later on, when I come back and tell you this, you're going to be like, you did tell us that, Mr. Blow Your Mind. Again, I'm the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. Again, this is Mr. Blow Your Mind coming with another thought performance. And I'm going to get up out of here, y'all. Yeah, you tell me what you think. Comment, subscribe, dislike, share, whatever you need to do. What you think? Do you think that everything that you saw was the way it was being played out? Or do you feel like you was at a play, at a drama? And now that everything that's been laid out, now the things are starting to fall into its place. So again, what the real agenda was about. Again, I'm your host, Mr. Blow Your Mind, and this has been the Black Minds News Report. Again, when you see one another, greet your brother. What's good, brother? What's good, sister? Can't do that much. At least give a universal nod. Understand the team and the team that you play on and all those who play on the same team with you. Sometimes of them are going to have their own allies. You just got to ask them. You got to ask your allies a couple questions to understand what's going down. One, if shit and when shit get hot, are your allies going to be still down in the frying pan when it's boiling and hot and scalding when we screaming? Two, ask them if they ever heard of John Brown. Is that something somebody just told us, or was there really a man who took his family, his boys, and went all out and said that God said that, you know what I'm saying? He gave their words that he spoke. But they deemed him as one of the craziest white men that ever lived in this country. Know that we dawn on the time that there's some but not all who are seeking for our demise, and it is incumbent that we as BADOS, ADOS stay mindful. Right? We have to stay mindful. We have to stay vigilant and cautious, and most of all, high spirit. Again, I'm your host, Mr. Blow Your Mind, and again, this has been another Black Minds News Report. Until the next show, y'all. To the next show.